You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the studio, welcome to the microphone, Supreme Court Judge David Ashton Lewis.
Oh, good morning to you and welcome, Colin, and good morning to all those who are listening. And I hope that what Colin and I do over the next 25 minutes is helpful and constructive for all those who listen.
Well, we've spent a couple of weeks talking about
6 weeks.
6 weeks talking about historical components and the foundations of democracy and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Today we're going to talk about something that, David, you would never have found at the bar or have had to deal with at the bar.
No, you're right. It was there once, but in my lifetime, no, it wasn't there. And that is?
I'll let you introduce the topic.
Oh, you're running away.
We've gone over so much ground in the preamble.
Yes. Well, look, I wanted to talk today about, like we've spoken, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato. They were brilliant-minded people who spoke about material things. Plato did believe in God, but it wasn't a religious God. Plato saw God as the creator of everything. Well, religion has picked that up. So I thought, look, I would like to speak today about the aspects of the Christian faith, because we're Christians, that while they're not philosophical in the form of the three great Greek philosophers, they're certainly philosophical, but they have an aspect to them that those three Greek philosophers didn't have, and that aspect is things like eternal life, forgiveness, salvation. So I was thinking during the week and thought, let's do it, of certain statements that were made by Jesus, things such as, faith is the essence of things unseen and the substance of things hoped for. So they're not material.
Sure.
You know, faith is the essence, so that's faith, of things unseen, and the substance of faith is of things hoped for. And comments like, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. Things like what he did with the thief on the cross on one side of him. I mean, those two men were up there beside him because they'd obviously committed capital crimes. So it would either have been murder, rape, or aggravated, bad robbery. They all carried the death penalty. And the one turns to him and says, Rabbi, today when you come into your kingdom, will you remember me? And he says, no, I can do better than that. Today you shall be with me in paradise. Yet, I believe that Jesus was the manifestation of God in flesh. I must say, I also believe all living men and women are the manifestation of God in flesh. It's just that some of us never get enlightened enough to know it because we are a creature of both material form as well as abstract, and it's called soul, spirit. Now that came, I believe, from God. So here is this man who's a total sinner, so asking, if you come into your kingdom today, well, when you come in, will you remember me? Jesus has no hesitation saying, no, today you will be with me. And I've always felt that's the only person we can know for sure, because we know Jesus, a Galilean carpenter, was crucified in about 31 or 30 AD for speaking out against the Roman authority and against the Jewish authorities, and yet Pontius Pilate examined him, washed his hands and said, I can find nothing wrong in this man. So you've got that. And then you've got the second thing. The penalty for rape was one of the 10 commandments. Adultery. Not rape. Adultery. It's death. And yet a woman is chaste to him, falls at his feet. He puts a stone in his hand and says to the crowd, well, let the one who is without sin amongst you cast the first stone. They go. He picks the woman up, who's grovelling at his feet. He says to her turn, he asks her, "Woman, where are your accusers?" She says, "They've gone." And he then says these lovely words, "Well, as they don't condemn you, neither do I." And yet this is God, who supposedly dictated and carved out on stone, certainly one of the 10 Commandments, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And yet he's standing there, God, with a woman who's caught in adultery. And he says, "Go and sin no more."
Learn from your mistakes.
Well, certainly, but this is something, again, that we talk about all the time. But how many, and all those statements I've said, you all know them out there listening, for those of you who are Christians. But when you stop and really think on them, you stand back and say, "Good heavens, I am so far away from this." But you think of those massive statements, "Go and sin no more."
Sure.
And she had broken one of the 10 Commandments, death penalty, but she wasn't put to death. That thief, no doubt, capital crime, wasn't, "Well, you suffer, you brought it on yourself." No. Words are, "No, I can do better. You're going to be with me today." And then you add words in like, "In my Father's house there are many mansions." You add in words, faith is the essence of things unseen and the substance of things hoped for. There is a clear statement that my kingdom is not of this world. In other words, we're not going to find heaven here. As he was really, I think, saying, this is your journey to heaven. And don't fear death. Death is but a crossing over point. So when... And it was these philosophers that made me go back and start thinking about these things and realizing Jesus wasn't a player in words. He spoke clearly. And I think of my own journey. In 1990, when my daughter died, 3-month-old, the pretty little baby girl, and I was devastated. So was my wife. We could not even console each other. We'd been warned about it by others. The death of a baby is one of the most destructive things that can happen to a man or a woman. Well, it was. And I was given a book by a Jewish rabbi called Harold Kushner. And he had suffered the same. He'd lost a child in early years. And Harold comes to it in his book, one of two conclusions. Either God is not all-powerful, or he's cruel. He lets these things happen. And I thought, yes, look, I agree. So for about two and a half years, I was a complete atheist. I did not criticize others who believed. The faith that I'd carried for 25 years, I first remember drawing pictures of Jesus when I was 3. So I remember thinking, no, and guess what? It just slowly, not that I was seeking to do it, but faith, not material things, faith started to seep back in. And I became even stronger in faith at about the age of 34. And I looked back and thought, did I have to go through that devastating... Well, I didn't have to go through it, so I'll just leave it at this. I went through it, and it had me angry, and then it brought back a stronger faith.
Look, I remember from my early days, and I can't remember where it was derived from, but it was derived from a number of places, that the statement that I remember is life is a lesson.
Life is a what?
A lesson.
Oh, yes.
And we experience a great many things, and we grow and we overcome, we solve problems, and sometimes we don't solve problems. We continue to make the same mistake over and over again because we haven't been able to grow beyond that point. Now, as part of that life is a lesson, and again, taking the abstract into it, I'm very sorry to hear of your daughter's death, but one way of looking at it is that this was something that you and your wife had to experience to grow through or learn through.
Yes.
Now, if you think about what you've just said to me with your faith came back stronger, it leads you down the road of, well, that could be true.
Oh, without a doubt. Look, by about the second year, I just lost an old habit. Didn't believe, but I'd still pray with my little then 2-year-old son. And I'd sit with him and we'd read a Bible passage or in a children's Bible and we would say a prayer.
Yes.
And he would say a prayer. And I thought, look, I'm at least being a good father. I'm introducing a 3-year-old child to the knowledge of God. But what happened, which I wasn't prepared for, but I was being led myself back by the hand of God. And as I mentioned, I came back stronger in my faith, and I hope people who I know wouldn't call me a Bible basher. I've never bashed the Bible. Why would I bash it? And I've never overdone the story. I only can ever relate from my own life experience, like Harold Kushner. And then remember, Eric Clapton wrote this song, Tears in Heaven.
Yes.
Because he let his, I think, 4-year-old or 3-year-old son sit on a window ledge. And this child fell out and fell about, I think, 7 stories down.
Yes.
Obviously was killed. Now that affected his life. And then we get this beautiful song. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven?
Yes.
And the words of that are beautiful.
Beautiful song.
Yeah, so the journey of each of us is our journey.
It is.
It's no one else's. And it encapsulates, well, for me, I've always gotten strength even before I walked away from faith. The passages I've said, my kingdom is not of this world, but that of which is to come.
Yes.
In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. So those words started to have better meaning.
So let me pose this one, since we're
Yes.
talking of the abstract. What is the point in life then, David, if the objective is to get to the other side and get to heaven? Why not bypass all of this and just go straight there?
Well, the person who can answer that is no one who will ever live in this material lifetime. I've always seen the purpose of this life when I was good, and then since coming back, I've seen it as, no, I have one function, to know God and to understand a concept which is abstract. Again, I've said it on this show. How many times have you seen God, Colin? You've never seen God.
But you can see him in things.
We're going to come to that. How many times have you touched God? How many times have you heard God? Well, God per se,
Yes.
never seen, heard or touched. But
You can see
I saw God in the birth of my first child.
the effects.
And I touched God in holding this little baby that was so defenseless, so helpless, needed mother and I, who's now a 38-year-old man with a career in law and his own baby, 2-year-old baby. There's God,
Yes.
as best as I can understand, almost in the Platonic, Socratic and Aristotelian way. It's to be seen materially. I can touch my son. I
Yes.
touched him. I helped deliver him. On March the 6th, 1988, there was change in views, and the obstetrician said, "Come on, Dad, you help create this. You're going to help it come into life."
I remember being offered to cut the umbilical
Yeah,
cord,
yes.
and I said, "Isn't there someone more qualified around here to
Didn't
do
need
that?"
to be. Well, that firstborn child of mine,
Yes.
he asked, because he's 38, youngest one is 32, so he was 6, and he asked mother one night in the bath, "Can I come and see?" When we knew that it was a boy and we knew we were going to call him Armstrong, "Can I see Armstrong being born?" Christina had explained to him a bit, and he had an understanding of where the baby came from, so he asked. Christina looked at me and I said, "Look, it's really up to you if you're happy." She said, "I am." So anyway, we arranged with the obstetrician, can he be there? And this obstetrician was just a lovely man, and he said, "Of course he can be." you'll be helping me, David, because I helped deliver the first, the second, and now is going to do it on the third. And he said, yep, sure. So what we did, I can still see 6-year-old Monty standing there, and I won't go into detail. We all know what happens. And this lovely man, Ian Stewart was his name, and he said, now I want you to follow me, Monty. I want you to do what I ask you to do. And the best way to do it is, and he held his hand out, palm up, and he said, put your hand in my hand, palm up, and he did. And I watched him help deliver Armstrong.
Yeah.
And the nurses, they were beside, a child can't do that. Ian just said, I've said he can, and that's enough. And Mum and Dad are happy for him to do it. So that's enough. And he did. Now, Monty doesn't like talking about it today because he couldn't remember it. And he said, did I do that, Dad? I said, yes, you did. And what we decided, if he became distressed or whatever, he would be removed. But he wasn't. I can still see this little face looking at life coming from life. And he turned around to me and said, Daddy, is that what happened with me? And I said, yes, it was. I was standing where you're standing now with Ian, and I was bringing you into life in the world. Nice. Not life, because life in the womb. So, look, these things are the material proof to me of God. And you see it in the birth of a lamb or the birth of a piglet I watched help deliver. I helped deliver 3 of my horses' foals. And you watch this beautiful little thing being born. And so, look, there's God. To me, others will say, no, you're just watching life going on. To me, the most important thing, and I think you would agree with me in this, and we've talked on this before, when I look at you, I'm talking and looking at Colin Bolevsky. But Colin Bolevsky, as I've come to know him over 15 years, is not just this body I can see. Colin Bolevsky is a humour, the way you'll laugh. And these things are abstract. They come out of your mind. So it helps me to see, no, Colin Bolevsky is more than just a physical body. He is a soul, a spirit.
I think we all are exactly that way.
I agree. But
I remember talking with someone who was profoundly blind.
Yes.
And asked them about their perceptions of the world.
Yes.
And it was very interesting, the reply. The reply was, he challenged me to take put a mask on for a couple of days and just listen. And he said, what's more amazing is how much you deem of a person when you just listen and don't see. Now, I took up the challenge. It was times at uni, and at the end of the day, it was fairly eye-opening. The breaths, the sounds, the little nuances that go with the conversation. If there's a joke being posed, it was very interesting to perceive it in a different way than we normally would.
Well, that really ties up with, lo, we see through a glass darkly now, but in that day all things shall be made manifest unto all mankind.
Yeah.
And so life is a journey. It's a journey of great joy. It's a journey of great sadness. And to try and avoid the sadness and only have joy, it won't happen.
Yes.
To live constantly in sadness is so destructive of the human condition. Some people do, and they suffer badly. And for those I've known as a barrister and as a lawyer acting for, I've thought, well, look, there's nothing that the world can do for that broken heart. But I do believe there will come a day where that broken heart is going to open their eyes and think, oh, my God, I had no idea.
Yes, absolutely. Well, David, on our past discussions, we discovered a wonderful little term called epistemology.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not going to go with the joke.
Oh, you're not going to go with the joke. All right.
Look, I've noted around the building and in the conversations
Yes.
based on our discussions.
Well, firstly, repeat what it is. What is epistemology?
Well, I'm boiling it down
because
to
you were good. You got this right.
I'm boiling it down to what the discussion points were.
All
It was
right,
the
yes.
difference between truth and belief. Now,
Yes,
there
yes.
seemed to be a great deal of conjecture, a great deal of discussion on this truth and belief
Yes,
concept.
yes, of course.
And it's funny how people can latch onto, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
But when you actually go and put it up against the measuring stick,
Well,
no,
yes.
it's your belief.
Yes, it is. You'll say to them, so what's the evidence that that is the objective truth? And they'll recite to you numerous medical... Look, this happened a lot during the COVID time. You will remember it.
Yes.
And people said, oh, no, there's learned papers written and it's been looked at, and I'm not skilled in that. I've just accepted that. And then you say, but what about those equally brilliant minds who didn't accept it? And we've got that now with climate change.
We do.
We've got that with
So a truth would be being able to absolutely prove one argument
not
or
prove,
the other.
just exist. Like we're sitting in a studio now.
Not prove. See it actually
Yeah.
in action.
You know that I'm real.
Yes.
You're talking to me, I'm responding to you. You don't believe that David Ashton Lewis is real. You know it is because you see it. Now, one of the difficulties we in humanity suffer is exactly where there's distinctions. Climate change, it's the truth. And I've heard geologists and others come up and say, no, it's a basket full of nonsense.
Look, it's interesting because I'll go back to the example of the blind person.
Sorry, I didn't finish.
Yes.
And so what you can say, if you're two opposite ends of that spectrum, it's our belief.
Yes.
The denier can't say, no, it's the truth. There's no climate change. Or there is climate change, but it is not going to lead to the snow caps melting and whatever. And the one who holds to it said, no, I believe it is. Now, you can go and say, so therefore, you both hold strong beliefs. That's good. This is a democracy. But it's not the objective, verifiable truth until the world collapses or until...
We watch those polar ice caps melt.
Yeah. Yes.
We're not going to
So
know it as the gospel truth.
No,
So
it's always a problem.
So the one for me is, and I'll go back to
Yep.
the example of the profoundly blind man.
Oh, yes, yes.
Can only perceive the world through his ears and touch.
Yes.
Right. So we've heard the stories that God spoke to me, and the words were loud and they were audible. In that person's profound blindness, that very well could be the truth
For them,
for them.
not for the world.
Not for the world.
No, that's
for
right.
them.
Yes.
Right? Now this is the difference between truth and belief, and
Yes, yeah.
I love the conundrum for the fact that it does come down to a measuring stick, to a point.
No, you're right. I
Right.
agree with you.
In
Yeah.
a court of law, there are rules and regulations,
Yep.
and it is an absolute yes or no. Correct?
Yeah, but it's based on, assessment of, firstly, evidence.
Yes.
And then it's based on the mind of a judge, if it's civil, or a jury going away and thinking we've got evidence on one side, we've got evidence on the other side. And then the judge has to explain to them, if it's, well, you don't have juries anymore in civil trials, he has to be satisfied on the balance of probabilities.
Yes.
It is more likely than that A happened and not B.
Correct.
So he will find for A. That is not saying
That this is the truth.
that's right.
Yes.
And it's the same in the criminal situation. The jury argue, and this is why jury trials are so important, but also can be quite a difficult, long process because they have to get a majority or unanimity, and to do that with 12 human beings, on that we are satisfied beyond, and here's the key words, reasonable doubt. Not any doubt, because that would be dangerous. We're satisfied beyond reasonable doubt. Now, you've heard me say over the years, and Clive Wall will know this from his years on the bench, that usually juries come back and say, okay, well, when will we be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt? Now, I won't go into it here, but you do say, well, there might be other possibilities, but in terms of this whole matter, they're not reasonable. Now, that can create problems, and one of the major areas of appeals in criminal courts is the judge and the jury getting it wrong. And so, again, there's a huge difference between my belief and it's the truth.
Well, David, we're getting very close to the
yes.
end of the program, so I thought I'd leave it to you to summarise.
Oh, you always do that. Why don't you summarise today?
Because they love you.
Oh, yeah, they also love you, I know. All right. No, we've looked today at aspects that are abstract, but and you either believe or you don't. There's no clear proof of them, yet they are life-changing. You know, Plato's Republic, brilliant writing. Socrates, epistemology, brilliant. But it may not necessarily be life-changing. It might be life-educating. But when you put religion in, such as for a Christian, these things were handed down, you know. Faith is the essence of things unseen, blah, 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 blah. That's God saying it. And I believe in God, and I believe that God created space and time, was outside of it. So if I believe that, well, it must be true. And the answer to say, no, not in this life. It's a matter of belief in this life, because there are many people who have no belief in a religious God at all. And I know that because very quickly, I know we're running out of time, I gave it away for about 3 years in my life. I was just, it's all rubbish, it's all nonsense, it doesn't work. But God didn't give up on me, really. I gave up on God. And God just said, I'll just wait, and I'll gently touch David here and there. Well, I told you what happened. God came back into my life much stronger. So what we've talked about is that today.
We have, haven't we? And
Yes.
grief is a process, isn't
Oh, gosh, yes.
it? All right, David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Oh, as always, thank you.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4CRB.com.